My name is Ryan Cole. I'm 32. My wife Michelle is 8 years older than me. When we first got together, people told us it wouldn't last. Too big a gap, they said, too different in where we were in life. We spent 5 years proving them wrong before we finally got married, and for a long time, I believed we had. I thought my life was complete. Michelle was my anchor, the person I built every plan around. What I didn't know was that for 4 of those years, she was living a second life I wouldn't discover until it was almost too late to matter. It started with something small enough to dismiss. I was taking a photo of her on the porch one evening when a message lit up her screen. A man's name, complimenting her new manicure. She grabbed the phone before I could read more, laughed it off, said it was just a coworker being friendly. I told myself I was overthinking it, but that was the day a small seed of doubt planted itself somewhere I couldn't quite reach. Over the following months, small changes added up. She started angling her phone away from me, keeping it face down even at dinner. She stayed up late messaging people she called old friends. New clothes appeared in her closet. A new perfume replaced the one she'd worn for years. She started going to the gym far more often, and there were errands that never quite added up to the time she was gone. Whenever I asked, she turned it back on me, called me insecure, said my questions were the real problem in our marriage. Every time, I ended up apologizing for asking. One night, while she was in the shower, I opened her phone and found a conversation with a man who'd clearly been pushing for more than friendship. But she'd turned him down flatly in writing, no ambiguity. I remember feeling proud of her that night. I thought my suspicion had been unfair, that I'd nearly ruined something real over nothing. That relief turned out to be the biggest mistake I made in the entire 4 years. Not long after, my father's health began to fail. Between hospital visits, treatment decisions, and the slow unraveling of watching him decline, my entire world narrowed down to just getting through each day. Michelle was there for every appointment. She held my hand in waiting rooms, talked me through the hardest nights, and became, in that season, the partner I always believed she was. I told people I didn't know how I would have survived it without her. What I didn't know was that her other life kept running in parallel the entire time. My father passed away that winter. I fell apart in ways I didn't recognize in myself. One sleepless night, months later, restless and unable to settle my mind, I picked up her phone again, not expecting to find anything. What I found stopped my breathing. It wasn't one man, it was several, across different stretches of those 4 years. Long conversations, plans to meet, hints at hotel bookings, deleted messages I could still partially recover, hidden photos, and contacts saved under names that weren't real. Piece by piece, it built into a timeline of a relationship I thought I understood completely. The worst moment came when I found a message where she told one of them that if the timing ever lined up, she'd leave me behind and start over somewhere new. I didn't confront her that night. I started collecting everything instead, quietly, methodically. Old cloud backups, emails, bank statements, location history, call logs. Each piece added to a picture that broke something in me a little more every day. Some of the men, I realized, had crossed paths with each other without knowing it, all orbiting the same woman at different points across 4 years. This wasn't an affair anymore. It was a fully constructed second life, built and maintained in parallel to the one she shared with me. Even with all of it in front of me, I stayed quiet. Some part of me wanted to know if she would ever tell me herself, if there was still an ounce of honesty left that might surface on its own. For weeks, I said nothing. I watched her behavior instead. She kept acting like nothing had changed, talking about our future, planning trips, being affectionate, treating our marriage like it was as steady as it had ever been. I spent that time building something of my own on the side. I met with a lawyer named Grace Whitfield and quietly began separating my finances, securing what belonged to me before I said a single word. I documented every piece of evidence with dates, screenshots, and names, organized the way you'd organize a case file, because by then, that's essentially what it had become. Finally, one evening I sat her down. No shouting, no accusations thrown out in anger. I laid the evidence in front of her, one piece at a time. She denied it first. Then came the excuses, then the tears. Then she claimed it had all ended a long time ago, that it didn't reflect who she really was anymore. But when I laid out the dates, the messages, and the specific lies she'd told me on each of those exact days, she ran out of anything left to say. She just sat there, silent, staring at 4 years of her own handwriting turned against her. That night, I understood something clearly for the first time. The affairs themselves weren't the deepest betrayal. The deepest betrayal was every single day she looked me in the eye while I grieved my father, while I built our future around her, and lied without hesitation. I didn't yell. I didn't try to get revenge. I didn't turn it into a spectacle for anyone watching from the outside. I simply began the legal process to end the marriage, calmly and completely. Grace helped me finalize the separation of our finances, and because I'd protected my assets early, the divorce settled faster and cleaner than I expected. Michelle tried, near the end, to paint herself as the wronged party in front of our friends. But the evidence I'd gathered made that version of events impossible to sustain. One by one, the people who mattered to me saw the full picture and stood behind me instead of her. 6 months later, I sold the house we'd shared and moved into a smaller place across town, one that felt entirely mine. I kept my father's old workbench, the one thing from that house I couldn't imagine leaving behind. Some evenings I still sit next to it and think about how much he liked Michelle, how he used to say I'd found someone steady. I've made peace with the fact that he never knew the truth. In some ways, I'm glad he didn't. I don't regret the 5 years before the marriage, or the years inside it. I loved her, fully, for a long time. But I learned something I don't think I could have learned any other way. Loving someone completely and being able to build an entire life with them are not always the same thing, no matter how much you want them to be. I didn't end that chapter broken. I ended it clear-eyed, standing on my own, finally living a life with no second version hiding underneath it. If you were in my position, would you have confronted her the moment you found that first message, or would you have waited and watched the way I did? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story kept you hooked until the end, make sure to like and subscribe for more.